All right, Mr. Darrell Watson, Councilman for District 9 in
Yes.
Denver, Colorado. Thank you so much for being on Heroic Hospitality. Can't tell you, I've been thinking about this a long time since we did the meet and greet in Beacon's backyard. So thank you so much for coming today.
Well, Mario, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this is fantastic. I appreciate the offer to be here and engage with you in dialogue.
Yeah,
So.
I think that there's just so many questions I have. I am ignorant to politics, but have a passion for it because I do know that if you have access to the right people, you have influence. And hearing you speak was just so engaging and so powerful because of how you spoke about small businesses in Denver specifically, in District 9 specifically, which I'd love for you to dive into a little bit. But just not even a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, you weren't a politician.
No, I wasn't being paid to do stuff. No, I had my own life, and this was not a planned change in my life and the life of my husband. This came upon us.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how did this? I mean, I'd love to understand what that journey looked like for you, and is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, Mario, you started by saying that you don't know much about politics. I've got to tell you, Beacon has been. I think I've held 3 events here, or you all have invited me to 3 events.
We're trying. We're putting our best foot forward here.
But I think the best thing about those is that they were organic. I mean, you as small business owners, I mean, you know the issues that are impacting most families. Most families that are doing well or struggling in Denver. I mean, your small business is kind of part of that ecosystem. And so I want to tell you, thank you, and for your team here for having me at so many of these really great discussions. So your question was,
and Robert was a big part of that, my business partner. I know he reached out and made that happen. So
I think,
shout out to Robert.
I was told Robert was the brains behind the whole deal there.
Sure.
So he pulled it all together. But I appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
You and Robert. But for my engagement in deciding to run for Denver City Council, it was not a planned thing. As I said, Mario, I mean, I live in District 9, and just for your audience to have a sense of where that city council district is, and we have 13 districts. We have 2 at large, so 2 city council members that represent the entire city, similarly to the mayor. And we have 11 district council members, and each of us have several neighborhoods that make up our district. So for District 9, our western boundary is Coors Field. So 20th Avenue, so if you just look 20th Avenue going towards downtown, that's our western boundary. Then we go up to Globeville, Lear, Swansea is our northwestern boundary. So you think of National Western. That's kind of an institution that's in Globeville. So that's part of our district. Then all of 5 Points, exactly where we're at here in the art district, is part of our district. We have City Park. The actual park is part of our district. And then we have most of Park Hill south to Monaco.
So I think the biggest boundary that I think is most important to our livelihood and our conversation is that one with Ballpark and the Mission. So we're just on this side. District 9 is, because I think, you said Park Avenue, right? 20th.
Yeah. So you're a bit in. We're 28th. Yeah. So, but you're right on the edge. But I mean, it is, I believe, pretty much the heart of Denver. When you think of Denver, you think of 5 Points, the Harlem of the West. You think of the art district. You think of all of these great things, these institutions, from the zoo to the Nature and Science Museum to City Park. These are all part of District 9. But that goes to kind of why I ran. I have always been engaged in community. I was intentional. My husband and I chose to live in the neighborhood we live in, which is Whittier, which is just a little bit west of City Park. We're intentional because we wanted to be a part of community. And we began to see over the past 4 years, prior to me deciding to run, that there was a level of politics that, or elected officials that weren't listening to community. It was kind of the politics you see on cable news networks, or you hear on talk radio, where the politicians were coming in with very clear ideologies. These are the things I believe in. These are the litmus tests you must meet in order for me to meet with you or for me to talk to you. The former council member that was in this district refused to meet with many of the owners right here on the Larimer Strip because they didn't meet her litmus test as to who's important enough for a council person to listen to.
And so what was that onboarding process like for you? That just sounds like you're already taking on a position. Mm-hmm. You're receiving a position. You've accepted a position that somebody before you was much different than you are in your ideology. What was that onboarding process like for you? Considering you weren't a politician just handful of months ago.
I mean, it's not a regular onboarding process, Mario. For me, my onboarding was listening to community and actually meeting and speaking with folks. Understanding the mechanics of the office. I mean, I'm a business person. I had 30 years in finance. I can get the architecture and the structural institutions within the city and how to maneuver. And I was equipped for this role. I didn't understand all of the nuances. So the onboarding, the toughest part of the onboarding is understanding that as a politician, as an elected official for city council, you are there to serve the people. They're not there to serve you. And so that onboarding was making sure I kept in touch with communities, all of the neighborhoods that make up District 9, and I continue to do that.
And if that's what's your relationship with the mayor then?
Yeah, I mean, that is really an interesting thing. I mean, we have what we refer to as a strong mayor system of government. Please
counties, articulate on that. Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, some counties, the actual city council or commissioners, they propose and manage the budget themselves. And then there is a city manager that manages the city. And then the mayor actually kind of coordinates the approach, but the mayor themselves don't run the city. In Denver, specifically, our mayor manages the budget. So, for example, the mayor gets together with the city agencies. He lays out the $1.37 billion budget, provides it to Denver City Council. We still have to vote for it. We still have to pass it by a 7-vote majority. Or if we are wanting to make changes to the budget for the mayor, if we pass that vote by 9 votes, the mayor can't do a veto. So we have strength within Denver City Council, but the mayor creates the agenda. We respond to the agenda, and then we can augment the agenda based on our discussions with community. For example, I wanted to make sure that because there are so many encampments within District 9, encampments all around our small businesses homeless down here, homeless encampments, people living on the streets, we wanted to make sure we helped and support those folks to get to housing, but we also wanted to make sure that the small businesses that are impacted actually survive. So I proposed to add $500,000 to the mayor's budget to give grants to small businesses in District 9 that are impacted by encampments. That was not an idea that the administration came up to, so we amended his budget, and the mayor accepted that amendment, and those dollars are now available, and they're going to be made available to small businesses across District 9 before the end of this year.
Now that sounds great. I mean, what you just said sounds amazing, but it always seems so out of reach for people that don't have the resources to get these types of grants. And what are these businesses that can actually apply for these grants? Like, is it under 20 people? Like, what does that look like, and how easy is it, honestly?
So one of the things we were intentional about, Mario, before I even proposed the funds, I got together with the Department of Economic Development and Opportunity. That's the department that provides grants or loans to businesses to help them survive, give them access to capital. I spoke to them about my proposal, and we worked pretty specifically on what the granting process was going to look like. We streamlined the grant process. It's a 1-page form, unlike the 10-page form most of the grants are.
Yes.
We removed many of the requirements that other grants had, and simply a business would have to have file taxes in 2022. That was the one kind of testing factor. Beyond that, they simply had to be able to communicate a narrative of direct impact for being close to an encampment. Beyond that, they simply list their how much funds they their assets under management, how many employees they have. We didn't have a minimum amount of employees.
Okay,
we
so it could be a big or small business.
It could. Well, the business couldn't make. I believe it was above 5 million. I think that was the amount in assets. I think that was the cutoff. It could have been a little bit higher, but we didn't want established businesses because obviously they have access to capital, other means for loans and stuff to support them. We wanted the small businesses, the business like yours, the businesses like bakeries or any of the things that are coffee shops that are directly impacted, that they really don't have liquid funds. They don't have access to loans from banks. They are dependent on clients coming in, customers coming in, and buying things. And we want to make sure we augmented them to get them through at least the rest of next year.
So if it's a one-page document, how do these small businesses know that this exists even?
So we sent out, and that's the other thing. And once again, if you're, as a council person, my focus is to put forward these initiatives with input from community. We actually held a meeting with, I think it was close to 30 small businesses within District 9.
Okay.
They met with the department that was putting the grants together. They spoke to them as to the things they wanted to see in this proposal, and those things were included. We also had the contact information for all of the small businesses that met the criteria within District 9. My team sent out the email. The mayor's team and the administration sent out an email to everyone communicating that these are the steps to take to apply for the grant. So folks weren't blind to this. The mayor did a press conference and also a press release as well. So we did multi-levels of communication for folks to know about this. And folks can still go to my website on the Denver Gov site. Just go to Denver City Council at denvergov.org. Go to Darrell Watson, and you can go there until December 14th. So it looks, I think we have.
We're almost.
We're almost there.
We're gonna launch this after this, so I don't know if.
So if folks heard this, if you want to cut this out,
no, it's still. Fine.
But
we'll keep
December
it though,
14th is the deadline. But we've communicated this to pretty much every business in District 9 that would qualify for these grants, and it's up to them. It's first come, first serve. It's $500,000. It's $15,000 a pot that everyone can get. It's one pager. Folks need to apply. If they apply, they're in.
Congrats on that.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So,
congrats. That's huge. Now, you mentioned some nuances about Denver specifically.
Yeah.
Could you give us the waterfall from the governor? What does this look like as the transition of power from the governor kind of coming down to our position here at this table? Like, what does this look like? And how hard is it for the normal person to have access to someone like you that has influence?
Well,
those are two questions.
Yeah, let me start with the first part of the question as far as kind of the system of government that we have and the breakout between the state and the municipal leadership. So the governor's office, they lead tax policy and statewide policies that impacts Denver directly. We as a Denver City Council don't interact directly with the governor's office on most things, but we do have communication with folks that work in the governor's office. So for example, when we were looking at increasing rental assistance because we've had a precipitous increase in folks being evicted and needing additional rental assistance, and the program that was funding rental assistance in a state of Colorado, the city and county of Denver specifically, ran out of funds. And so we spoke and communicated with the governor's office as to steps that the Denver City Council was doing to identify $30 million to go towards providing support for folks who are dealing with housing instability and needing rental assistance. Once we passed that, we then communicated up to the governor's office and said during their special session that they just held, we are asking and encouraging the state legislature and the governor to actually meet what Denver did, to at least put $30 million also into this agency that provides rental assistance. So we have the governor, we have the House and the Senate. They also provide laws, legislation that impacts the city. For example, within the legislature over the past 4 or 5 years, there are changes in how you can charge folks for the amount of, if they have drugs on them, if they are committing certain crimes, what level of crimes can be charged and people be held in prison for longer terms without bail. The bail system was changed by the legislature downstream. That impacts Denver because if we have folks that have low-level crimes that are arrested, let's say, doing something in front of Beacon, that you call the police arrest them. Those laws that were changed within the legislature could change whether that person actually spends a night in prison or within 2 hours, they're right back in front of Beacon again.
Yeah.
These are things that we are having communications with the state legislature on as far as unintended and intended consequences of our criminal justice laws that have been changed. Are those impacting us in our communities? And if they are, what are ways to augment them? So governor, legislature, and then all the municipal leaders like myself in city council, and we have our Denver school board, et cetera.
And if I were to understand this, if I understand this correctly, if the mayor wants something passed, he's got to get y'all on his side.
And correct. I mean, the mayor has the ability to move on some issues without city council action, just like the governor can do the same without the legislature. But for anything to stick and to become long-term, to become a pattern, for example, any budgetary spending requires our input. So we have a really great working relationship with members of the mayor's team. We meet with them on a weekly basis. I meet with individuals based on where my priorities are at on sometimes a daily basis within the mayor's office to set those priorities and to ensure that when the mayor puts something forward, that it's something that's not going to impact District 9 disproportionately.
Understood. Wow, it's fascinating. I just can't. I just am so happy you're on the show today. So thank you again. I just can't thank you again for coming on.
I got to share, Mario. I mean, I think you began saying that this may not feel attainable to I would say
the average citizen,
the average citizen in Denver, and
it feels like that to me. I'm just speaking through my lens.
But I mean, I got to say, I mean, I think our government and our system in government in Denver, if the folks who feel that it's not attainable or feel like that they cannot reach their elected officials, those are the folks that we need to be very much involved. I think there are levels of involvement within politics. You don't have to run for city council and put your life out there in the public to have an impact. But what you can do is if you're living, let's say I'm a biker and I'm a runner. Yeah. I live near City Park. 26th Avenue sometimes feels like a speedway, how folks come blazing off of Colorado down towards downtown to come towards Larimer Street and come towards the Art District. As a resident, any resident can help change really how quickly cars can come down there so kids aren't at risk of being hit, or that bicyclists or that folks who are walking. You have small things that you can do within your communities to make your communities, your families feel more safer and make your home feel more like home for you.
What would step one be for that? Because for us, in my mind, it's a neighborhood organization. Is there another opportunity or?
Yeah, I mean, it's like what you guys have done already, Mario. I mean, I learned about so many opportunities for ways to engage with folks within Larimer, within the RiNo Art District from the meetings I've had here. Mm-hmm. And this was before I was elected. I was invited to come here. And so I learned about concerns that folks were having with Denver Water when it came to final permitting process and making sure that there was enough water for their restaurant and their businesses to operate. That came from a meeting here. And you didn't start an organization. You just simply brought people together that were like-minded, that were focused on the history and the future of this strip, and you all have created change. So within Denver Water now, based on that one business owner that spoke to me, and I was an unelected official at that point, about the troubles with Denver Water is changing internally their practice for how they engage with folks who are at the end stage of their permitting process and not delaying and costing them tens of thousands of dollars for that final review process. So the CEO of Denver Water, I had a meeting with him once I was elected. We sat down and talked through their structural process, and they're changing it. And that was from a meeting right here at Beacon.
Thank you.
Without you having a registered neighborhood organization. I mean, you're a small business owner. You all had some shared thoughts and beliefs. And that's one thing that bubbled up from that meeting.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool.
No problem.
I know we have a limited amount of time. You're going to go have dinner with the mayor tonight. So I have
not quite having dinner with the mayor, but it's a holiday event, and yes,
at his house.
And he'll
right?
be there.
Perfect. So talk to me about. So Robert and I just got back from Miami.
Oh, okay.
And what a place.
Yep.
I mean, the energy.
Yep.
The enthusiasm for nightlife there.
Yeah.
We went to Art Basel,
Oh.
and it was just really eye-opening. And we went on a little, recon mission for our new spot that we're opening down the street. But it just reminded us, and we knew this all along, but it reminded us Denver is such in its infancy when it comes to nightlife. And Sunday to Thursday is such a challenge. Is there, and like, so I have a comment, and I'd love for you to have a conversation around this, but like, when you talk about safety in a town and in a city, having a hard stop at 2 a.m. is really challenging. It puts a lot of people on the streets that maybe aren't equipped to be on the streets, right? So is there any conversations in your circle that are talking about nightlife, how we can promote nightlife? What can we do to bring more business? Like, whether it's the Denver Beer Festival, like businesses like that, or festivals like that, or like ETH Denver. Is there anything that is on y'all's radar that is going to help bring Denver more in the spotlight? That specifically. And then the other question is, how does closing at 2 a.m. benefit Denver, and how does it benefit the small business? Because as a small business, we see the opportunity to continue to sell alcohol and to offer a service. Okay, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I have to say, Mario, I mean, the 2 a.m. Closing time is, I think it's kind of a holdover from when Denver was considered a cow town. We're one of those small, middling cities that a lot of folks didn't live at. And 2 a.m. seemed reasonable because everyone else around us was 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. I don't think it fits right now.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't make sense to have that uniform stop because, as you stated, everyone blazing out of a business, a restaurant, a bar at the same time, catching ride shares to try to get home or driving while still intoxicated, I think is problematic. So for me as a council person, I began having discussions with community planning and development and others on, what are the steps that we need to take to make sure we have a more gradual process for a release time. I know the city is trying innovatively. I know in what we call lower downtown area because of certain issues that have happened when
violence.
And I'm trying to tread because, we're here in the art district. I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on Lodo because there's a lot of great businesses down there, but there's a lot more crime that happens there after the bars are let out than happen here. And so there's some criminal behavior, some gun fights, and all sorts of things. And so the police have begun a process where bars are letting folks out earlier or later. They're also having different lighting. The police are blocking off certain streets. They're sort of doing a whole host of things that they think can mitigate that streaming at 2 a.m. I think opening up and allowing for bars to stay open later just makes sense. I mean, we are an international city. We have the third busiest airport, not just in the country, but in the world. We really have to change to be a city that's on fire like Miami. The ability to encourage folks that want to have entertainment and that want to enjoy city life, we have to, as elected officials and as a city, find ways to make sure that we don't have laws that are, from the last century that makes absolutely no sense. So I don't support that.
Are you a majority or a minority when it comes to that opinion?
I haven't counted votes yet. You see, you know more about politics than you're pretending, Mario. You got me counting votes here.
I know.
No, I don't have a 7-vote majority on that as yet. But I will get there for you. But no,
okay.
I feel pretty confident that we will have a majority. My process normally is to build the data, identify the causation. I need to understand the existing the existing conditions of the environment, why we're at 2 a.m. And so I'll take a little bit of work. I would say by next summer I'll be, or even prior to next summer, I'll be in a place to start having public discussions on this. My hope would be to have a few meetings here at Beacon, bring folks from the administration, and we could just sit and have a talk as to why that graduated release time, or why a 4 a.m. doesn't make more sense than a 2 a.m. I'm not sure what
that time is,
sense.
sure.
The time, but I know 2 a.m. doesn't make sense.
2 a.m. doesn't. I think for a lot of safety is probably the the first thing, but also tax dollars.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of tax money that could be generated between 2 and we'll just call it 3 a.m.
Yeah.
as just a compromise if 4 is on the table, And what can we do for whoever's listening? Because we were earlier talking about how a normal citizen could get involved in things that they're passionate about. And I know that a lot of people that listen to this are nightlife enthusiasts. And so what can we do to help support this cause and to raise awareness that even is on the table?
Yeah, I would say for the average citizen, I mean, absolutely, you have an ambassador in me. And so send to my office. I mean, it's not hard to find me. Just go on denvergov.org, look up Darrell Watson, or just simply Google Darrell Watson. You'll find me. And it's Darrell Watson. I'm sure Mario's going to put my information out.
We'll get you all set up.
But send an email to me saying, hey, I want you to dig in deeper. I want 3 a.m., I want a 4 a.m., I want no a.m. time. Just send that information. If you know who your city council person is, send that information to them as well. I think beginning that discussion is important. I've committed that I will, engage deeply in that discussion, and by, the end of the second quarter or so, I will be having public discussions on that here in District 9 and bringing the administration into it. So I think it's important.
That's amazing. And thank you for your candor with that. There are some cities, some big cities that do great jobs with nightlife, and they have a designated person.
Yeah. And
there's been a lot of talk in circles I run with about a night mayor, not nightmare, but a nightmare. Do you find value in that? And maybe could you articulate on that a little bit? And do you think it would add value to what
I think
Denver?
Naming is important. I think finding, but I think the position is even more so. So whether it's a nightmare or not, night mayor or not,
Sure.
I'm not sure what we'll call it, but I think having someone within our excise and license teams that have a full responsibility with looking at fun Denver. I mean, Denver is a fun place, but it is not as accessible for everyone.
Sure.
When with our downtown partially, carved up because of construction on 16th Street, I think we need to have someone whose focus is on fun.
Yeah.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
And support too, because it's like the legalities of liquor licenses. It's hard to navigate.
And I think all of that is inclusive. So I'm saying someone that part of their role is to make sure Denver is a fun place for families, for individuals, for groups, for conventions. We have many folks who part of their role is that, looking at the bigger picture of what Denver brings and why we are the best big city in the Rocky Mountain region. We just need someone truly focused on fun, and that will include all of the above, from the closing times to expediting excise licensing to looking at impacts of folks who are trying to get permits of other kinds that are starting small businesses that don't have a ton of access to capital, can't wait a year and a half to get a permit. All of those things I think they intersect. And so as long as our focus is always on putting Denver first, moving Denver forward so that folks who come here love it, folks who want to stay, and folks who want to go back where they're from, go back, but they come back to visit. All of those things, I think, is part of my role as a city council member to make sure District 9 is a destination not just for folks in Denver, but in Colorado and the world.
And keeping people in Denver longer before they go to the mountains, especially during ski season. Yeah,
I agree.
It's super important and only benefits everybody, really. I know you're short on time. I just want to ask, when we're talking about the old legislation, and then we just got a new mayor.
Yep.
How do you think, what's your opinion on that transition? Was it a good trend? Where are we going from here? And what do you think, we can look forward to with this new administration?
I got to tell you, I knew the old mayor way back before he was mayor. We did some stuff together, and I think he did what he did over 12 years, I think, moved Denver dramatically from where we were at before he started. It went through a recession, went through COVID. Actually, I think it was 2 recessions, and then COVID, a global pandemic. That's not easy for anyone to lead. Right. And so I give props to former Mayor Michael Hancock. I've also known Mayor Johnson also for almost 20 years. I knew him well before, when he was a principal of a school up north, wasn't engaged in any level of politics. I think one of the things that I know very well about Mayor Johnson and that I respect greatly is that he's not afraid to think big and to lose if he doesn't meet the target, but he's not an incrementalist completely. I like incremental steps when it's logical and rational, but he's not afraid to take big jumps, like his Housing 1000 plan. The day before we were sworn in, he pulled all of us aside, new city council members, and said, I'm going to propose that we're going to house 1,000 folks who are currently living in encampments by December 31st. Every human being in Denver who supposedly has been in the housing process said that's the craziest thing. It will never happen. You're going to fail completely, and it will destroy your administration. And he didn't give a hoot. He decided, I'm going to push this forward. We had close to 300 folks dying on our streets last year. He said, we're going to house 1,000 folks, and we're very close to doing that. And we're 2 weeks out. I think we're going to get there and get beyond, and most folks didn't give him credit. Give him the benefit of the doubt that can happen. So my answer to your question is, I think Mayor Johnson is the right mayor for the time that we're in.
Great.
When we're talking about having a fun czar within the city and county of Denver, if you spend any time with Mayor Johnston, one thing you know is he enjoys his life, he enjoys his family. He is not afraid to take risk, and he's not afraid to lead boldly. And I think we're in for a fantastic 4 years. Lots of potholes, lots of things that we still need to face. The global economy
literally potholes.
Yeah, we got lots of potholes, and we're going to see a lot more in the spring. But the global economy, our recession, a whole host of things that are facing the country. We have a massive, crazy election next year that can be very hard for the country to go through. We've got headwinds, but I think we have the right leadership in city council and the right leadership in the administration.
Is there anything we can do as the average everyday citizen to address the homeless situation that can support your efforts to house these folks, protect these folks, and also keep our streets clean and safe?
I think in District 9, and I'm not speaking to all the districts, we have for the last 80 years been the primary caregivers for the 80% of the service providers who support folks who are unsheltered in this city. And we've done it with grace. I mean, we have always stepped forward. So I've got to say to folks in District 9, thank you so much for all the ways that you serve. The majority of these large encampments are in District 9 as well.
Yeah.
And our folks have been on the front lines for this. So things that folks can do right now, the weather is, getting, today's cold as hell.
Super cold.
Coats, warming gloves, stuff like that. Providing those things to my office at 2855 Tremont, and I'll provide this information to Mario afterwards.
Great.
We need that. We also need folks to be involved in the discussion on what the policies should be as far as how we support folks who are moved from encampments to housing. How do we reclaim these streets, our right-of-ways?
Yes.
What the beautification process should be, because really simply closing encampments but leaving the streets the way they are it's not sustainable. So I need for you, Mario, I need for folks up and down this strip here in Larimer to come up with ideas as to what are the beautification steps we should be taking within the city and county of Denver to make sure that when folks come here or come down to downtown, they see the thriving, beautiful city that we had prior to COVID.
Yeah.
A lot has changed since COVID. So those are 2 or 3 things. My office is going to have a list of stuff that you can do, not just for unsheltered, but also for the migrants who are coming here from South America, Central America, majority from Venezuela. We are home to at least 1,000 of those migrants right here in District 9. There are plenty of ways for you to support them, and I'll put that out on my website.
Yeah. And really just to support the movement forward to put this issue behind us, even though that will never happen.
Correct.
But that aspiration should always be on our radar. And
I agree.
It is on mine too. And I owned a restaurant on 21st and Lawrence, and it failed because I am putting I failed because of it, and it was hard to see that that mission expand.
Yep.
And when that mission expanded, then all the businesses around there just completely crumbled. So whatever we can do as the listeners and watchers of this, and sounds like your website has a lot of information to help push this needle forward and have the aspiration to put this issue behind us. But it's a hard conversation to have for a lot of reasons.
It is, but also for the businesses, know that, I support you. I'm not just, and I keep saying empathy doesn't end at the edge of these encampments. We have to have empathy for the small business owners like yourself who have lost your life, lost your business. Some have lost their livelihoods. There are several businesses that closed even since I've been elected. And that's why I've always made sure, number one, I'm going to support the Mayor's 1,000 initiative, but I'm also going to have very specific legislative actions to support small businesses to make sure that they can survive and weather this storm, and that we have, when we come to District 9, small businesses that we can go to that are organic businesses that are grown from this community, not some business that popped up from Tennessee that came here from somewhere else, but some businesses that are grown from Denver with folks like you, Mario, and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I really wanted to have you on the show today because of your support for small business and what you've done for District 9 in such a short period of time, your energy, your dapper good looks.
Come on now.
Well, I know you got to get going. Have a great night. Thank you so much for being on the show. Did I miss anything? How can we support you? Let's talk about that.
I think you're supporting me enough. I'm in for 4 years. I'm good, but I just got to say, Mario, thank you so much for all that you all do. To the folks who are viewing, listening to this, your voice is important. This is the work that we do means nothing if it's not about you. I have tons of big ideas in my big head on this big hat, but that doesn't matter unless these sort of things are impacting you, your families, and your small businesses. So I am asking you to reach out to me, reach out to my office, let me know how I can serve you. And it has been my honor and pleasure these 100+ days that I've been in office to be of service to you, and I look forward to continue doing it over the next 4 years. So thank you so much for having me at your podcast. I'm looking forward to have some drinks with you all here sometime soon, and I appreciate what Beacon does here on this trip.
And I'll just say, for the record, I reached out to you to be on the podcast. It was a 48-hour turnaround before your team got back with me, so what you're saying is real. So thank you so much for keeping it real, and
that's awesome,
and pushing the needle forward on all the awesome things in Denver with nightlife and paying attention to homeless and all the things. So I just can't thank you enough. And
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.